So on that note, I started this season talking about I wanted clarity. That's the only thing I wanted from this year. And honestly, for a hot minute, I thought I got it. I thought it was they stink. They need to fire Fickell. We'll move on. Chris McIntosh threw a bunch of ink into that water and made it all muddied because I don't know anything about this program. I don't know where this program's going. Outside of, I mean, if I want to be pessimistic, the clarity is this team's going down, and it's going to get worse. If I want to be optimistic, you could go with the, hey, they're going to spend the money. But we don't know that for sure. So there's no clarity. So I wanted clarity out of this season. I didn't get it. I have no clarity. This is a very foggy image. I don't know what Wisconsin football will be. I know what I want it to be. We can't agree on what Badger football should be. Should they spend the money on offensive linemen? Should they zig when everyone zags? Should they go money ball? Should they get a quarterback? Should they get a new coach? There's no clarity. The clarity would come if Luke Fickell took another job. Like, that's where the clarity would come that we can start over. And we'd talk about that more later, but there's no clarity for this program. I have no idea what direction it's going in. I have no faith in what direction it's going in.
I don't have clarity in terms of the leadership, but I have clarity in terms of the young guys. They were pretty much forced into being more into the starter role. Again,
okay, but are they going to be here next year?
We'll see. But at least from a development standpoint, that's what gives me clarity. That's what gives me some ounce of hope. Is I know that Hunter Simmons won't be back the next season. It was we gave it a shot. We liked kind of what we saw in the Michigan game, but it's not like we saw anything overly sexy in that situation. But again, Mason Posa being a third team all Big Ten guy, at least that's promising.
Sounds like he'll be playing somewhere else.
But you know what?
Maybe I hate to say it like that now, but like
that's where my optimism and clarity is at least the young guys. If they do stick around, I can't predict that. I wish I could put out the crystal ball and say this is exactly what's going to happen next season. This is exactly where these guys are going to go. But at least, again, from a leadership standpoint, though, I'm wanting to put my faith into Fickell, at least minus how that game was handled in Minnesota. I liked how the last few weeks, sans Minnesota, they were handled with the backs up against the wall and how the young guys played. That's what gives me some sense of hope, is that at least the young guys that are coming up who are kind of, again, forced into these situations that, hey, like they could ball out and they could be a sense of that gleam of hope.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Mason Post and Cooper Catalano, at the bare minimum, those guys are going to stay. I think Dylan Jones, he doesn't have enough tape out there to go anywhere anyway right now, but Darian Dupree, Gideon Atuka, I think those guys are going to stay. Eugene Hilton, I don't know if he's going to stay.
Why would you be here if you're a wide receiver?
Exactly. Trech Kakahuna, I think it'd be kind of fitting if his last pass was a hospital ball thrown by Hunter Simmons where he almost died and turned the ball over on downs.
That hurt me seeing that one.
Yeah.
I remember that vividly.
That was really not fun to watch. So I think there will be a strong nucleus of young guys who could help carry this team next year. But do I have any clarity about which direction they're going? No. We have conflicting images of what we've seen on the field. They've gotten worse every year, but then Chris McIntosh comes out and says he's confident in Luke Fickell. Ted Kellner says they're going to spend more money on this program. So there are reasons to be optimistic, but I don't know. Me personally, I'm going to be a lot more measured, I think, heading into next season until I see some tangible moves this offseason, until they make a splash at quarterback maybe. But even then, like, everyone's gotten hurt that the Badgers have tried to bring in at quarterback. Like, it's just so muddled right now.
If it is not clear, the Badgers are spending tens of millions of dollars more this offseason than they did last offseason. There's no reason to be optimistic, and we have our clarity. The Badgers are not big boys. They can't play big boy football. Because that's definitely part of it. Luke Fickell could coach better. But let's be honest. Luke Fickell, greatest coach in the world, just in the X's and O's, gets his team to what, 6 wins? I mean, they're just not talented enough. And so there's two sides to this. And I am sympathetic to Luke Fickell not having the means to get the players that he needs. And if you want to be a Luke Fickell stan, which I understand, and I think he's a good coach, you can look at Posa and Catalano and other players who kind of climbed up, and you can look at the injuries, and there is growth. But when you're growing from, and this is all due respect to all the players, but if you let's I'm not even talking about Cooper or Posa, but if you're taking players who are a 5 when they get here and you grow them to a 6.5 in year 1, that's still a 6.5, and then next year you're going to grow them, what, a 7.5 out of 10. So like you're starting at a lower point. So I'll start believing if I start seeing the Badgers write real checks, but they already lost someone to what, Grand Valley?
Yeah, to Kansas.
Lance Leipold at Kansas.
And I think we're
Jason Eck with that extension too. Over in
this is airing
Mexico.
tomorrow. We're recording on Wednesday, December 3rd, National Signing Day. Right now, it seems like Wisconsin's in a bidding war with West Virginia for Amari Latimer, the 4-star running back. If Wisconsin loses a bidding war to West Virginia, I'm sorry, it doesn't look like the Badgers are ponying up, in my opinion.
And that's the way you look at this. That's the way you have to look at this, is that the Badgers need to spend some money, or this is all a fugazi.
Fugazi.
Yeah, it's
like
just
it.
made
No,
up.
no, I like it.
Yeah.
No, what is
I like
what
it.
is a Fugazi?
It's just air. It's nothing. Like
Oh.
this is all like we're a pretend program.
I've
We are a
heard it-
pretend program if we don't have any real money.
Okay.
I've heard it in rap songs.
Like
Fugazi.
I'm gonna have to look up what a Fugazi is. Is it like a just a figure of speech, or is it a real thing? Like
that
a
a
wisp
noun?
of air, like a mirage?
All right, I'll tell you here. Fugazi meaning
We got clip of the week coming up. We have word of the week right now.
Hey,
Yes.
vocab.
not genuine, bogus, or false.
Okay.
A thing that is not genuine, a pretense or a sham.
Ooh, that's a strong.
That-
That's a strong word.
Sham. I like
It's
that.
just a modern sham.
We're doing our best Michelle Smallman out here on Unsportsmanlike with the word of the day, word of the week. I like it.
Fugazi is how I. So my one word to describe this Badger football season: Fugazi. The Badgers are patting themselves on the back because they have finally caught up with the rest of college football, Pablo.
We did it. We did it. Hang up the banner. Let's do it.
Yes. So Wisconsin introduces Badger Athletic Partners, a new dedicated NIL entity under Learfield. It acts as a full-service agency connecting athletes with corporate sponsors and managing deals end to end. Wow. What a novel idea. Are the Badgers the first team to do this, Pablo?
No.
Are they closer to like the last team to do this?
I would hope that they're not the last.
And they still have to they have to hire 5 new full-time staff members, but then it'll have one of the largest NIL departments nationally.
Yeah. It just felt like a massive word salad when I read this whole thing. But, to an extent, it is exciting to know that there is a step being taken forward, but truly, it still feels like that on and on. We need to see progress now. It's enough of talking about it. It's enough about talking the talk. Walk the walk. Start taking the steps to move forward and contribute. Because, again, if I'm a fan, let me just ask you, if I'm a fan, what does this say to me? It's okay, there's investments, they're doing something here, but truly, it's again, we need to see more action. We now need to see what is Wisconsin going to do. And I'm sure, again, this is the infant stages, don't get me wrong, but don't feel like that this is the big old win that you're hoisting up the national championship trophy. And I don't think Wisconsin is necessarily doing that.
Yes, they are.
But
they are.
You believe so?
That was all of a sudden his name's escaping me. The big time don't. Ted Kellner,
Yeah.
is on KBN and telling the world that we're going to have a new revenue stream. It goes back to the same
the
damn
NIL.
thing I said last time. This is not a new revenue stream when you account for the fact that everyone else is already doing this. So, congratulations on catching up with your competition. What do you want, a cookie?
Yeah.
The Badgers are not supposed to be, the way I understand it, is they're not going to be able to operate like Michigan or Ohio State, or they don't want to operate like that, where they're going to be able to spend money and use football as a loss leader of hey, we're going to lose money in football, but the attention it brings, it will bring more people into the university, and in the long run, yes, we lose money on football, but in the long run, we'll make money for the university with brand awareness and all of that. That's not how Wisconsin wants to operate. Instead, they're trying to operate, you could look at it like the Milwaukee Brewers or Oakland Athletics, Moneyball, which means you have to be smarter and more nimble and more forward-thinking than everyone else, which means you can't be dead last in adding something that is rudimentary in the NIL thing. I'm glad the Badgers are doing it, and I hope this isn't too little too late for the Mac and Fickle era, but what in God's name were we doing the last few years?
Great question.
I don't feel like that it's too little too late, but with your
for
what
this
you were
organization, for this specific regime.
let me say this. Let me back up and say this. I go more towards your mindset of we got to operate like the Brewers or all this too, because again, you don't have to. You would choose to do that. I feel like it's a choice if the Wisconsin Badgers want to do that, especially particular towards football, because again, at least from my side of it, I don't know if they're necessarily at Yankee level, but they're very close to it because of just the name status in itself. Now, from the success standpoint, unfortunately, it's just not there. But from the name recognition, from the brand. We've talked about this before, too. There is a brand issue right now, but the fact that this is a consistent thing where it's like, what's happening at Wisconsin? On the flip side of it, it's because people know what you can be. It's what people know who you are supposed to be, who you've been, what you've been in the past. So again, you don't have to operate in this money balls type of scenario. Yes, you want to work smarter. You want to work smarter over or not working harder. But at that point, too, you are Wisconsin at the end of the day. You are one of the top premier names, in my mind at least, in college football. So how can we get back to that? How can we keep playing Powerball versus trying to outsmart one or the other or try to play this 4D game of chess when we're just having checker pieces?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure how many people would say that Wisconsin is an elite brand in college football.
Sure.
I think a very good brand. But that's my question, Pablo. Like, does Wisconsin have to operate like this? I was doing some research. So first off, I wrote here on the show sheet, like one of the main purposes of this new initiative, Badger Athlete Partners, is because Wisconsin wants to compete in NIL without repeatedly tapping donors for cash. So I did some research. How do these top programs operate? A lot of them tap really rich donors for cash consistently. So do we not have enough big, like deep-pocketed donors to keep up with the big boys? Now the Texas Techs of the world, Texas A&M, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon.
Riley, let's put yourself in the shoes that you win the Powerball this Saturday.
Yes.
And the Badgers come calling on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
How much you want to give to this specific program with this specific coach in this specific thing is you're a big-time donor?
I don't think we'd hear from Riley if he won the Powerball
question.
on
I'm
Monday.
going into hiding, but I would want to be contacted, and I'd want to have the opportunity to sit down with both Mac and Fickle, as many people as they would let me talk to, explain, give me the pitch, give me exactly what they're doing, sell me on the vision, and I feel like, me personally, I'd be a pretty easy guy to sway. If you wine and dine me, you say the right things, I'm going to donate because I want Wisconsin football, I want Wisconsin athletics as a whole to succeed. And I feel like there got to be people out there like me with more money.
But look at it like this. How many times, because this is the problem, the Badgers come back with the same story over and over again to the same people? How many times are you giving that money?
That's the question. Probably twice. And then once you hit the third time, then I'd probably start pinching.
Wouldn't you rather want a consistent basis? That's just me. Instead of saying, and you always got to feel like you're tapping and asking donors, wouldn't you want to build that consistent basis?
Right,
that's just all. That's what I want to ask real quick.
So I'll put it like this, and I know we need to move on to the next segment because we got Devin Robinson coming up. I work with a lot of businesses, and you can use a car.
I can tell from the suit.
Yes,
you look sharp.
You can actually use this. We'll use a car dealer, just a generic car dealer, as an example here. So, a auto dealer has service, right? Mm-hmm. Service is the consistent moneymaker that pays the bills at most auto dealers. I don't know if you guys knew that. That is what keeps the doors open. That is what pays everyone's salary throughout there, outside of like the salespeople's commissions. Like that is what keeps the lights on. And there's a lot of businesses. If you look at home remodeling companies, a lot of them will do behind the scenes work for big builders, and they'll do all the trim work or they'll do all the framing work. It's not sexy, it's not fun, but it pays the bills. Mm-hmm. So you got that. And so you can look at it like this, and then they have their second revenue stream. A home remodeler could be the actual home remodeling side of things. That's where there's at least some revenue to be had. For the auto dealers, it's in selling the cars because there's incentives from the actual automakers, and then obviously there's money to be made from the consumer. So you have two streams of revenue. You have your set base stream of revenue, which should be the donors to at least make sure, hey, we're functioning at a normal level. And now you can try to reach out to Learfield. They should have reached out to Good Karma. But, I mean, in general, if you were going to reach out and get someone to sell this and work an NIL deal, that's your cherry on top. So you need two streams of revenue. Mm-hmm. So I get what they're trying to say. But that's the way I understand this, is that however you want to look at it, if you want to look at the donors and their consistent donations are what is going to be your base and keep the lights on every year, and then you're going to rely on Learfield in this scenario to go out and sell and get the money for your program, that's what it looks like, instead of we have one revenue stream and everyone has to drink from the same trough like you see in like Lion King, where they all come and drink the water, and then when the water's dried up, they all die.
Yep.
And we're dead right now. So we got to figure out a way
does make more sense
to work around it. That's the way that I understand it. I'm not saying I'm right. I don't work in NIL, but that's the way that I understand a lot of businesses work.
I think we should get you in there.
We should. Badger fans, rightfully so, are annoyed at the process that allowed Xavier Lucas to end up in Miami, and University of Wisconsin is basically taking Miami to court for how Xavier Lucas was recruited. University of Wisconsin was also in court around Nazir Forcourting, and he initially had a injunction against the NCAA following the 2024 season. Basically, he's trying to get eligible to be able to play, saying that his time at Grand Valley State should not have counted towards eligibility. And on Wednesday, a 2-1 decision in the U.S. Court of Appeals kind of killed Nazir's opportunity, or at least set it back a little bit. They still say that Nazir is ineligible for the 2025 season. It removes a veteran member of the Wisconsin starting lineup. He was a projected starter, but this is frustrating on multiple levels. One, like the NCAA, what are we doing here? Like, give the kid the opportunity to play. He's not going to go play in the pros. This isn't.
What good does it serve?
With all due respect to Nazir, like, this isn't a All-American Heisman Trophy candidate the Badgers trying to backdoor away into playing. This kid's trying to get one more year playing football. To your point, what does this serve? And then on the other side of it, the juxtaposition of allowing Xavier Lucas, and I don't have any issues against the kid there as well. My general rule in all of this around the NCAA is let these kids play.
Yeah, going back to the question, what does it serve? Like how it derails everything too, because he could have, I don't know exactly what his draft stock would have looked like, or if he signs an undrafted free agency deal. You never know. You never know which team will give him the opportunity. But that derails a lot of different things now. Now he misses that window. Now it's like, okay, what's going to happen from here? He trained with the team a little bit too. I know that he was one of the higher ranked players on College Football 26 too for the Badgers. I mean, it's just more of like the talent. I was talking to one of my friends about this too, who was also really disappointed, because I'm not going to lie, that secondary of Rico Hallman and Nazir Forcourting, that would have been sick. And I'm excited though too. I know I'm looking at the roster right now. Deanna Hill is a name that sticks out to me, but
that's not the point today. Like, we're talking about what's happening to Nazir right now.
Yeah, it's what, it's more of just like the principle of it, and it's like there's so many layers to it. You want to give this guy an opportunity to play, like you said too. It wasn't anything shady. It wasn't anything backdoor. It was just trying to get another year of eligibility, and I just feel like there could have been a lot more wiggle room here. I'm not a lawyer. I could see like that the evidence has been put out there, but also I'm like, what is the case? And again, going to the point, what is the NCAA really trying to prove here? What are they trying to get at? It just doesn't feel like that. It's, you like being the bad guy? What's going on here?
It feels like a last grasp at power. We've talked before on some of our other shows on ESPN Madison, Prep Mania being one of them, about the WIAA here in Wisconsin, and they've made some weird judgments against players. And anytime, whether it's college or high school, where you're denying a kid an opportunity from playing, I'm anti it. And there seems to be nothing, I would say, fraudulent going on here. There's no trying to gain some advantage. I honestly, in this case, I think Nazir is just trying to be made whole, for lack of a better word. Like, I think it's fair to assume that maybe he did not get his full college experience, and that's what he's trying to pursue right now, Pablo. And, like, that is something I'm always going to be for. And the NCAA, they didn't learn their lesson. Like, we are in this issue, and I've said this a million times. Why is NIL/pay-for-play such a disaster? Because the NCAA was power hungry and greedy, and they let this ride, this old system that's been blown up, all the way to the Supreme Court, because they thought, well, the Supreme Court will hold it up. The Supreme Court said, none of this is legal. You created a monopoly. You're taking advantage of these kids. Now there's no system in place, not because of the kids, not because of the athletes, because of the NCAA's need and want for power and greed. And this is just the last grasp to at least be able to hold on to some power.
It just feels like you're just knocking out a dream at this point. It feels like that, wherever it is, like hopefully Nazir, I'm not sure. Hopefully he has some type of whatever it is on the pro level, whether it's the NFL or any type of pro ball. But it's just frustrating to know that, like, if this is your grasp at power, just frankly, what the hell are you trying to do? Like, if you're trying to get power here and trying to just squash a dream, one extra year to play, because I know, too. Like, I was there for Nazir's first availability when he came to Wisconsin. He was trying to prove a point that he could make it from a Division II school, and the coaches were behind him. Paul Haynes, one of the coaches, too, on the Wisconsin staff, was right behind him saying, like, he's a kid. It doesn't matter what level you play at. It's just about how you play. And Nazir, I think, has been a guy year after year that I've just been, really, it's been cool to see him develop over those years. And now the fact that he doesn't actually get this opportunity when he really could have been the number one guy to come out and ball out, it just sucks. There's no other way to put it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have an interesting question for you guys because
we'll be the deciders.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Because I totally agree that this seems like a last grasp for power by the NCAA. But we're going to talk Xavier Lucas later. He just skirted by the NCAA's ruling and just totally ignored it. Unenrolled at Wisconsin, re-enrolled at Miami. Who's going to stop Nazir Forkurian from just playing? Like, what if he just played? What's the NCAA actually going to do if he decided, I'm going to suit up, I'm going to play my last season as a Wisconsin Badger? I don't think the Badgers would do that. It doesn't seem like something this athletic program would want to deal with, but how are they going to stop him?
Well, that's a great point. I don't hate the idea. Because it really would just point out that the NCAA is basically inept at this point and doesn't need to exist. Because it also goes back to what they're going to take away wins from Wisconsin retroactively.
Yep.
You know who went to the Final Four? Michigan with the Fab Four. I don't care, banner or not. Like, you can't erase my memories. I don't care about Reggie Bush has a Heisman. Mm-hmm. So these things happen, so that's always kind of been the case of asking forgiveness. Michigan's still national title holders.
Exactly.
There's no real repercussions for them. Their head coach got suspended for a couple games?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, their head coach got suspended.
Does anyone not recognize Michigan as the national champs? No.
Now, if
one of the guys has a documentary about him.
Yeah, if Nazir was a premier player, first-round pick caliber guy, I say go ahead and do it. And with all due respect, this isn't the hill to die on because you're probably not even getting an extra win out of this. But if you had an opportunity to have a Charles Woodson-esque player back there, and the NCAA was being difficult about it, I absolutely would file another injunction and then try to just slow play that. What are the police going to come and stop him?
Is the other team? Is Ohio State just not going to take the field because Nazir Forkurian's on the Badger, on the roster?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
So before we transition here, speaking of the Barry Alvarez show, I want to use that as a jumping off point to get into Luke Fickell and the way Badger fans feel about him, and maybe the donor community, the NIL community feels about Luke Fickell. And Barry Alvarez on his show talked about pressing flesh and getting out there and meeting the community and the importance of that.
We're trying to create interest, and then once we had interest, then whatever you're looking for, you had an avenue to get to a lot of people about what you wanted and tell your story and press some flesh with a lot of fans, so they know you personally. They know the head coach. They know the assistant coaches. Our guy, you just can't sit back and say we need this, we need that, we need that. Get out in the state and let the people meet you and sell the program. Know who you are, and this state will embrace. They will embrace you. They did.
So I want to ask both you, Riley Yauk, behind the glass, and Pablo Iglesias, and if you're watching on the ESPN Addison or ESPN Milwaukee YouTube stream, you can chime in on that as well. I want to ask you, does Luke Fickell still feel like an outsider?
To this, if he's not making, he's making the recruiting visits, but that is just a fraction of the visits that you need to be making. You need to be making more of the public visits. You need to be going out there. There were a few where Luke Fickell made the Milwaukee stops when he had just gotten hired. That was a big thing. I remember that being the first event right from the get-go. But you need to do more. You need to get out into this community, especially, again, Barry said it perfectly. You can't just be sitting in the office or even cold calling saying we need this, we need that to help the program succeed. You got to get out there. If you really want your program, and I'm not saying that this is just Luke Fickell, this, from what Brad Nortman had said too earlier this week on KBN, was that it feels like that there's a disconnect across the board too. Is the staff really getting out there? Are they a part of these visits too? Because even though it's very important for Luke Fickell to get out there, it's just as important for people to get to know the staff too, to get to know, let's say, the position coaches. Let's say like you're a wide receiver and you're getting recorded. It's just as important. Is it Jordan Reed, I believe, is the wide receiver coach? Regardless, if that's your specific position, you should get to know that guy very closely too, because you're going to be working with him on top of working with Luke Fickell and developing as a person, as a player. So I think getting out there is so important, especially too with the NIL side. You got to get donors and you got to figure out like what's going to be right for them. That's where I feel like getting out there is so important right now.
Okay, and I don't disagree on any of that. And Riley, you can hop in, and then Pablo, you can try to answer it again. Like but does he feel like an outsider?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, as a resident in Madison, Wisconsin, he doesn't totally feel like an outsider. But I've seen him enough around. He has kids at Edgewood where I feel like in Madison, he's not a total outsider. However, I know a lot of people from small town Wisconsin, and they cannot relate to this guy at all. He feels like in Ohio, like a big city kind of guy. He pronounces Wisconsin, Wesconsin. He doesn't seem like one of us. And if you, like one of us in the sense that Wisconsin is more than just Madison and Milwaukee. You have a wide contingent of people who live outside of cities in rural areas who want someone who feels down to earth, someone who can understand the grind. And I feel like Fickell could be that kind of guy. I mean, he's a wrestler. He clearly values hard work. But like Barry said, like he doesn't go to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, it seems. He doesn't go up to Manitowish Waters or over to Monroe. He doesn't seem like a kind of guy who would really fit in those communities. And if you can't fit in those communities, you're not really a Wisconsin guy. I'm sorry.
Brett Roll chimes in on ESPN Madison's YouTube stream or ESPN Milwaukee's YouTube stream as well as how you can watch the show. Brett Roll chimes in, if Luke feels like an outsider, it's on him to make the inroads with people. There has to be people within the department who Luke could use as a resource to network off of. Michael Glenn, 7172, chimes in. He has to be a brand ambassador. The fact that he is not recruiting in the state and developing relationships with coaches is malpractice. So, Pablo, Luke Fickell, you agree? Feels like an outsider?
Yeah, it feels like an outsider right now. I want to see him try a little bit more in terms of, again, connecting with, as Riley said, the smaller towns of Wisconsin. And it's like, yes, you want to get prime talent no matter where it's at, and that's awesome. But also, what has made Wisconsin, or Wisconsin, as we want to say it like that, but it's also finding that true bread and butter. It's also finding like who truly knows like what Wisconsin is, what that element of Wisconsin football is, and that's just what's felt like it's been lost. Like it's just plug and play, get some players here, and not a knock on the players that have come in here necessarily, but more so of just the strategy of it. It's if you're just completely jumping away from who you are and trying to completely overhaul and completely revamp and not forgetting like your roots or forgetting your roots rather, then that's the problem here. So I do feel like right now that he's, as Riley said too, and I agree, good guy trying to do what he can to help this program. But I do think like right now, what has he truly shown to show that he is connecting with Wisconsin, other than the fact, hey, raise your arms up, bring your booze at me, like what was it at halftime against Ohio State?
After the game,
yeah, after the game. Okay, like all right. Like, is that your way of trying to connect and show that, like, you care on a different level, too? Like, it's more than just wins and losses and program success. Like, people want to buy in to Wisconsin because it's Wisconsin, too, man.
Speaking of Barry Alvarez, we'll get to our poll question after Barry Alvarez. Let's hear Barry Alvarez on the Barry Alvarez Show live from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Middleton.
Coach, what do you make of how fans have reacted here
I think
so
it's
far?
embarrassing. I think it's terrible, despicable. They're spoiled rotten. Here's a team that you got young players trying to come on. They're competing. They're going to have a chance to get better, and you flip on them. They're early in the season, and you flip on them, and you're chanting for the coach. What do you think that makes? How do you think that makes the players feel?
Exactly.
And
that's a
that's
great
just,
point, Coach.
That's disrespectful. It's not loyal. You're not a fan. If I'm a person sitting next to me, boom, I tell, get your ass out of here. We don't need you in here. You don't want to watch this? Go someplace else. Go boo in a bar. That really upsets me.
Riley, I'm going to go ahead. Pablo, hope you don't take offense. I'm going to say Riley's the biggest Badger fan on this panel. I've caught every Badger game since I arrived in Madison since 2008, at least every Badger home game, and watched 90% of their games on the road. Even traveled on the road, gone to Rose Bowl and all that. But still, it's always been in some sort of loose reporter capacity. I obviously like the Badgers and want them to win. I don't cheer in the press box, but I do obviously grew up as a Badger fan. So I want you, though, Riley, because you unabashedly and pridefully do not hide your Badger fandom. How do you feel about what Coach Alvarez said?
No, I certainly do not. And I actually have essentially cheered in the press box before. Last year when I went to USC. I was just decked out in Wisconsin gear. I got a lot of weird looks from the reporters there. But I understand where Barry's coming from in the sense that he's a coach. He wants the fans to be fans, so to speak, like to support the team, encourage the guys. That, in his mind, is what the fans are there to do. But to insinuate that fans are spoiled rotten for wanting Wisconsin football to adhere to the standard that Barry himself set for this program is ridiculous. I can't agree with it whatsoever. I've been talking to some students who are currently in school right now, and the highlight of their time as Wisconsin football fans in school will be a 7-6 season last year.
Oof. We said it too when
2 years ago, I should say, with the ReliaQuest Bowl loss. That is what they're going to hang their hat on, and that is just so disappointing. My highlight as a student from Wisconsin football was a Las Vegas Bowl win, a Duke's Mayo Bowl win where Graham Mertz dropped the trophy and it went viral. That is the best we've ever seen, and I didn't realize how good I had it watching that. But
come on.
Yeah,
so actually, be grateful
but to
for
call
that.
the fans spoiled rotten for wanting a little bit better than 2-2, losing to Maryland, worst team in the Big Ten, is ridiculous.
Let me ask you a question. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yep.
So what years were you at University of Wisconsin?
I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. 2020 was my first year, fall of 2020, freshman year, to spring of 2024.
Okay, and who were the top Badgers in your time there?
Probably Graham Mertz, Braylon Allen, Ches Malusi. Man, I'm trying to think of some defensive players. Hunter Wohler.
Well, if you were 21, I mean, that whole defense, I'm trying to think. Well, your freshman year was 2021, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we're looking at the defense, too. We're looking at Leo Chanel, Jack Sanborn.
Yep.
Matt Henningsen, at least.
Yes, but
Keanu
that was
Benton and Nick Herbig.
Yeah,
but that
Keanu
was,
Benton.
But that was
the last season of those, the really tough Wisconsin defenses. Yes.
The end of their tenure. So, yeah, that's tough.
All right, so I just want to play this little game here. I'm going to go to the box score from the one team, the Badgers that went number 5 in the country. They lost to TCU, bad loss, on the road at the Rose Bowl, lost the Rose Bowl. So Scott Tolzien, better than Graham Mertz. The running backs on that team were Monte Ball, John Clay, James White. Then you had Nick Toon, Lance Kendricks, Brady Ewing, David Gilreath, Jared Abadaris, Isaac Anderson were the receivers. Again, most of those guys better than anything listed in your time there at Wisconsin. Even the kicker, Philip Welch, and then the punter, Brad Nortman, let alone the offensive lineman was like Moffitt, Travis Frederick, Bill Nagy, like a bunch of all NFL guys. Who, like literally one team has outpaced your run. And it's worth noting because that was under Paul Christ mostly. Maybe did Gary Anderson was there at all, or was it all Paul?
No, it was all Paul.
Okay, so it's not like Paul was covering himself in glory, which is part of the context in this conversation, Pablo. I want to ask our question, and people can chime in on the YouTube stream. Is this the most disappointing season for the Wisconsin Badgers since Barry Alvarez has arrived? Right now, it is at 96% of you said yes.
I mean, I feel like it has to be just right now. Like it's just still. I feel like I'm just still clinging on to the loss of Saturday and how much pain that just. It's not even throwing salt into the wound. It's just overall like it just. I don't know how else to put it. And I mean, Riley, you definitely feel the same way too. It's just sad. It's just tough. Like what is exactly wrong with this team? Like I said this too when we did our emergency episode on Monday, is like the only recollection that I have of all of what was it, of all of Wisconsin football, my best memories are people telling me about these memories, of telling me about these great players, getting to know some of these former players too that are in the league now and what it's meant, what Wisconsin football was when they were here. And it's just like, am I ever going to get that? Like, I just kind of feel like it's been mediocre seasons. It's been good to meet all these players. It's been good to talk to everybody, but it's just kind of like, all right, well, hey, maybe something will happen, but so far it's just always been like everybody's like, oh no, we can't come in flat this week, and all of a sudden something happens where it's just like everybody just feels flat all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think it's the worst for these kids coming up, like people like me, players who are in my age range, who grew up watching only greatness. Like, we've only known the very best of Wisconsin football. Like Aaron Witt was talking about it after the Maryland game. Hunter Wohler a couple of years ago. Cooper Catalano. Like, these young guys grew up Wisconsin football fans, seeing how good this program can be, and then getting here and being a part of that program or being a part of the university and seeing it fall completely flat on his face and seeming like we're back in the dark ages. It hurts.
I'm going to share a stat that's going to depress the hell out of everyone.
See, I thought when we did the Monday episode, this was going to be that was sad, and now here we are.
To answer the question,
at least we're all rocking red today.
Do you were Barry's comments fair or foul though? Now, full context, Barry walked him back some with Jim Polzine in the Wisconsin State Journal. So Barry thinks he went too far.
He does. I do think that it was. So Barry's comments were saying fair or foul.
Yes.
I think I'm pushing towards foul just because in that manner of chanting for the head coach, and Barry pointed out too, no matter what, you're always going to be under the microscope if you're in that head coaching position, and I respect where he's coming from. If anybody who knows it, he knows it to that extent, and probably from both sides of it too, both being an athletic director and a head coach. I do think the comments probably were a little foul because, I even think about Riley's resume too and what he's seen that's been quote unquote accomplished with the Duke's Mayo Bowl win, with a ReliaQuest Bowl appearance, with the Vegas Bowl victory, a guaranteed rate bowl victory. Sure, it's like you're continuing the streak, but even then, it's like everybody wants to be in a New Year's Six Bowl. Everybody wants to be in those games, probably that are played after Christmas, somewhere around closer to New Year's. Those feel the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I know.
The
Wisconsin,
Pop-Tarts Bowl would rock.
That would be sick if Wisconsin was in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. But so far, it's just been lackluster. It's just been get to those 6 wins, get to the bowl game, keep extending the streak by any means necessary. But I can understand where the frustration is coming from because, again, yes, do we need to give really not just Luke Fickell but bigger picture, newer coaches to come in and, it does show that there were some cracks in this program that needed to be fixed, and there were some deeper things than we realized in terms of this roster foundation. So, hey, what the exact timetable to turn around a program is, like, you can't really say like it has to be either like at this exact same time. Maybe it takes a few more years more than we realize, but also it's just kind of thinking like I could understand the pomp and circumstance, the celebration, everything, the word transformative. That always sticks out to me that Chancellor Mnuchin used when Luke Fickell was hired. The fact that we have not seen anything, the only thing that we've seen transform is my optimism into more pessimism. That is the only thsee that has transformed. That is the only thing that has happened so far, unfortunately, in these 3 years. And Luke Fickell has been, it's been good to get to know him over the last few years and just get to see like how he tries to, make sure to motivate these guys, how, the relationship that he builds with media, all that. Don't get me wrong, but man, we just haven't seen changes. So it's long-winded, Jim, but going to your question, man, I do think it is foul based off the comments because you could probably hear it in my voice too right now. This is sad. This sucks. Like, there's no other way to put it. And it's just, we all want Wisconsin to do well. Everybody loves it when you're winning. Everybody loves it. The vibe is a lot better. And don't get me wrong, it's like even when I say it like that with some energy, I don't want to say I want to bring the energy when things are good. I want to bring the energy when things are going super well for Wisconsin. And the fact that this is where we're at right now, I'm just speechless right now.
I would call the comments foul. I want to point this out, though, speaking of foul. I told you I'd give you a stat that's going to bum the hell out of you. So
you didn't even give the stat yet?
I know.
Great. After all that.
On the season, total yards gained for the Wisconsin Badgers, it includes the losses and everything. Total rushing yards, 471 yards. They have 4 rushing touchdowns. That is 3.1 yards per carry. That includes running. That includes quarterbacks and wide receivers and all that. I'd like to point out that you guys might remember this game against Nebraska. Melvin Gordon carried the ball 25 times for 408 yards. Didn't play the fourth quarter.
I do remember this.
Averaged 16.3 yards per carry and had 4 touchdowns. So in one game, and it's not stretch of imagination to say that if Gordon played that fourth quarter, in one game, Melvin Gordon outgained the Badgers so far through 4 games. And on top of that, he has outgained. You can combine all the Badger running backs combined. Running backs, not receivers. Just the running backs combined. They do not match the 408 from Melvin Gordon, nor the 4 touchdowns. So in one single game, and in fact, in 3 quarters of football, Melvin Gordon ran for more yards at a better yards per carry and scored more touchdowns in 3 quarters than the Badgers running backs have done in 4 games this year. So, Barry, maybe we're spoiled, but the product on the field is rotten.
Yeah. If you're not, I'll paint the picture of everybody that's not on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel. I'm just putting my hands in my face, man. And then I sent the other stat too. It's like, man, this really became sad boy hour all of a sudden. But the national run blocking rankings too for the Big Ten, you have what was it? I'm looking at this. I think 8 teams are in the top 50 of the Big Ten, or out of the teams in the top 50, 8 are on Wisconsin's schedule. And looking at the ones in the top 10, you have Minnesota at 10, and this is national for run blocking. Minnesota's at 10, Indiana's at 5, Washington at 4, and then you have Iowa at the top. Iowa and their run blocking right now, and the fact that people are very convinced that Iowa will be the next win for Wisconsin in the next coming.
People?
Who's saying that?
Right. That's what I've had conversations with people who've said Iowa, okay, like homecoming, this is a good vibe.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about Iowa is that those throwback uniforms I was so excited about at the start of the season. Next time we're going to see the Badgers play at home, they will be wearing the Don Morton era throwback uniforms
and playing like they're in the Don Morton era.
Wow, what a tribute!
It's just
we do need to move on to Fickle.
Yeah.
But I like to point this: the Badgers have scored a total of 83 points this year in 4 games. In 4 quarters against Indiana, they scored 83 points back in 2010.
You think we're going to get triple digits?
These stats, numbers can lie, but I don't think these are.
All right, before Brad Nortman joins us, we are going to enter the Wisconsin Twitter portal.
It's time for the Badgers Twitter portal.
Yeah, it is time to enter the Wisconsin Twitter portal, and today, fellas, let's start with another really sad stat about the Wisconsin Badgers, and that would be their record on Big Noon kickoff games. They are tied for 5th or 4th most appearances on Big Noon kickoff with 7, and along with Nebraska, the Wisconsin Badgers are 0-7 on Big Noon kickoff. So when is the ideal time slot for Wisconsin football? Because clearly it ain't noon.
Well, that being said, I'd prefer noon. I don't want to see them at night. I mean, I just don't. I don't need to be tired and mad. Like, can I just be bummed at like 3 and then move on through my evening?
I threw up my arms last year when I found out the Oregon game was going to be at night. We'll see.
I mean, I don't. Yeah.
It was a good game. It ended up being a great game, but I threw up my arms in disgust. I'm like, why? Why at this point?
Yes.
So maybe like 11 a.m. on like the Big Ten Network.
Yes, I don't want Big Noon. I want right now. I want the Badgers to kind of quietly do what they're doing for a few
Yes.
years here. Let's just kind of go, like in the Batman Returns, where he just disappears for a while and does his training and everything. The Badgers just disappear for a little bit, stay off the national stage, and then surprise the hell out of people, kind of Indiana style.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
whoa, look at the Badgers. Look at that.
They're back, baby.
That's what I'm preferring for. So you can stream it on YouTube for right now. It's really Badger football is for diehards only at this point.
The Peacock. The
Yes,
Peacock
yep.
game.
Get us on the streams, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
All right. More just sad stats today, actually. So this was posted earlier by ML Football yesterday. Remember when all Wisconsin running backs dominated Nebraska in the 2012 Big Ten Championship game? Melvin Gordon over 200 yards. Monte Ball over 200 yards. James White over 100 yards. 4 touchdowns and a touchdown pass. Let's look into the crystal ball here. When do you think the next time will be that Wisconsin has a 100-yard rusher in a game?
I don't think this season.
You don't think they get one this year? You're probably right. Maybe
Just a
Minnesota.
100-yard rusher. That's
Just 100 yards?
One game. When's the next
Well,
time?
the question is who, real quick.
I mean, it has to be Dylan Jones. You know what?
Yeah,
Honestly,
it'll
you might
come
be more
close.
lucky like you get Vinny on an end around and he pulls off an 80-yarder and then picks up some other garbage yards.
I think Tretch had a 62-yarder on that touchdown.
This is gross. This is honestly an affront to my senses as a Badger fan. But I kind of agree with you. I don't know if it's happening this year. So maybe next year. Did Braylon Allen get 1,000 yards when he was here his last year with his first year with Fickle, only year with Fickle?
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he did 'cause I think he was too hurt.
Yeah,
I don't think he did.
He might have ran for over like 800, 900. I don't think he got
Yeah, I don't think he got all the way
1,000.
there. So have the Badgers had a 1,000-yard rusher under Luke Fickle?
He was the last 1,000-yard rusher in general, but I don't think it
so.
was
That
under
under
Fickle.
Paul Chris. Yeah. So like,
That was the year where everybody got injured, so Braylon was the sole running back.
and how many games did we play?
In
It's
the
less
Fickle
than-
era?
No, I'm saying in general, like per year. Like
Yeah,
you
12 games, 13 if you make a bowl game.
All right.
If right now, too.
Yeah, right.
We never realized
But
that
so
how granted ifs were in all that situation.
The Badgers needed to have a running back average less than 100 yards per game to get 1,000 yards, and we haven't had that.
Yes. Yep.
984 yards.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
I didn't think
that's
there was
what Braylon
He had a
had.
great game against Minnesota, though. That's what counted.
It's not Braylon.
Should have ran out
was,
the clock.
Braylon was
ran out
fine,
the
yeah.
clock in one situation.
Braylon
what
was
happened?
fine. Like he missed some games or missed some
Yeah.
time. He would have had 1,000 yards, but it's just the indicative of the Luke Fickle era.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, Brad Nortman is ready to go, so that
All
is
right.
it for the Twitter poll.
We are thrilled to be joined by someone that I think I've followed on Twitter for a very long time. Never thought I'd have the opportunity to talk with her, but Nicole Auerbach is on the show. She's from NBC Sports, lead college football and college basketball insider, and with SiriusXM as well. Nicole, thanks for hopping on with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. I'm just going to be super simple with it. From the outside, what happened and what's wrong with Badger football? Because we got a million ideas here, but maybe we're just too close to the situation.
Well, I'm sure one of the million ideas is probably right. It's confusing from afar. I mean, this was one of the coaching hires that I think we all thought was a home run hire. It's rare to be so wrong, especially when you feel like, okay, Luke Fickle, Midwest guy, going to a Big Ten school, like match made in heaven. The couple of things that I keep fixating on to figure out at least a little bit about how we got here are, you missed on the offensive coordinator hire. The first one right out of the gate, you decide to try to go a little air raid, like go away from Wisconsin's past, but also the way that the roster was built and the strengths of that roster with the run game. And so, I remember that whole first year just being like, I don't even know what they want to be offensively. Like the identity was so shifting every day, every game, it was different. And sometimes they would run the ball well and you're like, okay, that looks like Wisconsin. Sometimes, they would try to pass. And then of course you have the quarterback injuries that didn't help any of that. So I think the lack of an offensive identity and kind of wasting 2 years trying to change who Wisconsin has always been was something that always jumps out to me. And then I think in general, when you talk to people around Wisconsin, and this was something at a number of Big Ten schools when NIL first became legal, there were a lot of places that wanted to do it differently or didn't want to jump in the same way that like Tennessee, right? They were at the forefront. And there were some other programs that were really aggressive about it. And they were willing to push the boundaries with recruits and prospects out of the portal. And there were some Big Ten schools that weren't really comfortable about that. They didn't want to get into spending wars, or they wanted to reward players that were on the roster and had produced for them before really giving them that paycheck. And so I think, a lot of people are realizing you have to be willing to spend money on prospects to get someone to you, and to contend with when you're battling some of these schools for some of the best players. So I think the slow acknowledgement of that, and willingness to engage in that has definitely been part of it, and just a lack of aggressiveness in the NIL space. That's going to hurt you in this day and age. But I really think a lot of it has to do with that offensive identity, and just being really inept on that side of the ball. And again, some of that is just bad luck with injuries, but some of that is scheme and trying to change too much. But it makes it really hard, to quote Luke Fickell for the last couple of weeks. Like, if you score 0 points, you don't really put yourself in a position to win games. So it's been a lot of different things, and I'm sure you guys could add to the laundry list. But again, I just kind of want to underscore like how surprised I am that it got to that point. I mean, I really did think that this was a great fit and was going to work really well right out of the gate.
Nicole, going off of that too, you hit it on the head, and we've talked about this on the show, where at the time it felt like that it was the right hire. This was the right hire for Wisconsin. Your assessment as he rounds out his third year, and a two-parter as well, if there even is a shot for him to right this ship, how can he do that?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of schools that would love to not be in this coaching carousel and would like to give their current coach, another chance, or invest money in the offseason into the roster. And I think Virginia's a really good example of that instead of making a change and moving on from Tony Elliott last year, they put money into the roster. They hit on some of these transfers. Another year in the system, the program continued its build, and here they are, sitting in the catbird seat in the ACC for a playoff spot. So that route does work, and I think a lot of programs are trying to do that before they make a change for a head coach that's going to be very expensive, and certainly it would be at Wisconsin. I mean, $25 million is a lot of money. I know we're hearing buyouts that are in the $50 million range, so we don't think about this as real money, but it's a very expensive decision. And so I take from Chris McIntosh's letter to fans that, he wants to continue to try to do everything from an athletic department standpoint and a money standpoint that they can do to position Luke Fickell to succeed. And, it was a very different kind of statement and letter to fans than the one we got the same day, which was, Florida State's athletic director writing to fans about Mike Norvell and putting out a statement saying, I'm going to evaluate this program at the end of the year. That read to me like, hey, donors, let's get $53 million together by the end of the season. Wisconsin's felt like, hey, we are still trying to work through this, and we want to give Fickell and give this staff all of the tools they need to be competitive in this day and age. And obviously part of that is Chris McIntosh going out on a limb to hire him, and in wanting to give him all of that he would need to succeed. But some of it just felt a little bit outdated of saying, we're not doing what we need to do from a resource standpoint. You're in the Big Ten. You want to be nationally competitive. You want to be in the college football playoff picture. So that was a little bit surprising to hear that in the year 2025. But I think, to continue out the rest of the season, obviously you'd like to not lose out. But I think we saw a competitive game against Oregon. And that was, I think, really encouraging after a couple of blowout losses where nothing really was working well. Playing a team that is a top 10 team in the country, close and tight, especially, tighter than we've seen a lot of other teams play them, I think is really encouraging. So I'll be interested to see how they close out the season here. But everyone, tracks the same sort of thing when you're looking at a team in a losing streak or where a coach is on the hot seat. You're looking at how hard those players are playing for that coach. What are signs of progress? What players, are really important to retain that have relationships with the head coach? There's a lot of things like that you're looking at down the stretch.
And we are thrilled to be joined by Kelly Stouffer from ESPN. He's calling the Badger game with Mark Kestecher and Ian Fitzsimmons this weekend. Kelly, thanks for taking the time today to join us.
You bet. It's good to hear you guys. You were having a great time, but Mr. Brightside versus Jump Around, who the hell put that question up there?
Riley, where did
That's
that
a great question. That was from the Fox College Football Twitter account. So
yeah, I don't get that one. I didn't even know what Mr. Brightside was, to be honest with you.
Yeah, is it a Coldplay song? Is that
No, The Killers.
The Killers. Yep.
Sorry, same difference to me. But I'm not full into that genre of music. So
yeah, I'm with you.
Kelly, I actually, I'm I'm old enough to remember you play college, and I also remember you playing for the Dolphins a little bit as well. So I wanted to first ask you have a unique perspective of you at least knew of Wisconsin, and maybe you didn't back in the day, and where they were from when you were playing college ball and a little bit in the pros to where they were under Barry Alvarez and Brett Bielema to where they are now. I think you probably have a pretty unique perspective of where this program has kind of gone since the early 90s.
Yeah, I think what I remember about Wisconsin football, first of all, Barry Alvarez is a Nebraska guy, and that's where I'm calling you from, born and raised in Nebraska. So the thing I remember about Wisconsin and that I love about Wisconsin is you always remember identity and run the football until you can't run it anymore and play incredibly physical defense. And you saw that kind of through one head coach to the next. And I don't really see that as I turn on the tape nowadays, but I think where Wisconsin certainly has to get back to.
And so, with that, when you're coming into this game, Michigan clearly looks like the more physical and more dominant team. But when you're coming into this, Luke Fickell's a guy that's won a lot of games. And he talked a lot about how the players just need something to go right to maybe so they feel like they can, overcome adversity in a game or win a tight game. As an analyst watching a lot of games and a former player, what is that feeling like where the players start to lose confidence in their ability to really go out and overcome adversity in a game? Because Fickell's been pretty open about these players need something to go right in a big game so they feel like they can overcome and can do it.
Well, and I think that's the key is you have to have something go right. It would be nice to start staying healthy. And right now, Wisconsin just seems, and really for a couple of years under Luke Fickell, they've just had such a difficult time gaining traction because they can't stay healthy. And really you start at the QB1 position, just keeping a quarterback on the field, having some continuity at that position. In college football as well as the NFL, if you don't get quarterback one right, you don't have really a lot of things feel good to you in your program as a whole. And right now, that's, I think, what is happening with Wisconsin. They just can't keep that position on the field. And when I start the season, as an example, I start with, deciding whether teams have a chance to win a championship or let alone be a playoff team, win a national championship. I start with a quarterback position first, and then the offensive line and defensive lines of scrimmage second. And right now, if you look at Wisconsin, they can't keep a quarterback healthy, and they didn't last year either, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And their offensive line isn't the offensive line that I remember Wisconsin to be. The guys that go down and eat together. I forget the name of the restaurant where they have the bottomless French fries and all those things. And,
Red Robin. There was a big article about that a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's not who they are currently. And so I feel like that used to be their identity: a physical run of the football, physical running backs, an offensive line that's about 7 deep, and you can just keep rotating those guys through, and a quarterback that was going to value the football and stay on the field. And they just haven't had that under Luke Fickell.
Kelly, I'm going off of that too. Is there a way to, I don't want to say the old Wisconsin, because we do know that this sport, from football has just gone through its evolution. It's moving faster, but how can Wisconsin still return to what their older roots were and still keep that modern energy in today's college football world?
I think a lot of people are doing it. I mean, I think the run game is making a comeback, not only in major college football, but also the NFL. But you have to have a quarterback that understands the game, that values the football. When I started looking at this game and thinking of the way the Wisconsin reminds me of currently, to some extent, it reminds me of Brent Venables at Oklahoma a year ago. And Brent Venables, we had them earlier in the year against Auburn. And they had zero identity offensively under Brent Venables up until this year. And the first thing they did is they solved the quarterback problem. And then they did this in reverse. They got the offensive coordinator, and the coordinator brought his quarterback with him. So they kind of solve that problem in one fell swoop. They had an identity offensively, which they do now, and they solved the quarterback situation. But there are a lot of teams that are building their offensive identities around a physical run game and valuing the football from the quarterback position, and having a quarterback that also is somewhat mobile, that can make you plays in those money downs where you have to get it on third down and even fourth down this day and age with analytics, and being able to extend drives. And so I definitely think that Wisconsin can get back there, but this is the problem that a lot of teams like Wisconsin and others face. You have to have the money to invest in the quarterback position. I mean, you guys would be playing a team this week in Michigan that seems to be on the verge of cracking that code. You know, we know that they won the national championship in 23 under Harbaugh, and they had some identity issues offensively. If you remember, leading up to that season, Harbaugh was on his way out. Mm-hmm. And then for about 3 years, they kind of found themselves. They found a quarterback. They found an offensive line that could play together. They found the offensive identity. And obviously, it ultimately finished in that national championship in 2023. So it can be done, but this day and age, you literally go out and be willing to spend the money to solve that position first. And a lot of teams are on the outside looking when it comes to what's necessary to make that happen.
Speaking of professional, you play professionally, and former Badger, you play now with the Dolphins. And obviously, the season last year, 8-9. And I always wonder for a fullback here, how do you judge, or how's the coaching staff, like how does everyone judge your success? Because obviously you've been doing this for a while in the league, with the Raiders for a little bit, now the Dolphins, so teams do believe that you are successful at your job as a fullback, but it's not something you can look at a box score and go, oh, look what Alec Ingold did. So personally, what kind of goals do you set for a game, and then also coach to afterwards? Like, what do they look for?
Yeah, I think it comes down to like the rushing yardage. If I'm able to set edges, we all get grade sheets. So as long as the running back room is doing well and producing, we have clean pockets for the quarterback to throw out of. That's really all you can control as a fullback. So yeah, 8-9 is a tough year to kind of look at. You look at, I missed a few games this past year. So you look at availability, you look at team stats, rushing, as well as like clean pockets. That's kind of what we do. And that's what my grade sheet looks like. So yeah, the boys we had a good off season and ready to flip that script on 8-9 because it was a tough start to the year. Ended up 6-2. But yeah, we got some work to do, Coach.
Yeah, Alec, pulling back that curtain a little bit during your time here at Wisconsin, too. I mean, the fullback position already, it's, some schools really specialize in it. And it felt like, over the years that I've covered Wisconsin, you guys, Wisconsin is just like one of the best places for fullbacks. How did that help you just, excel in the league with where you're at? And, sometimes guys got to move around to different positions. They, some got to be that hybrid, but you are that true fullback still, and you're doing it in the league. How did Wisconsin help get to you to that point?
Well, I do think that the Badgers are great with linebackers right now. My boy Zach Vaughn, TJ Edwards, Andrew Van Ginkel. You got a lot of linebackers. I was in that room behind Chris Orr and TJ and Leon Jacobs. So, I mean, fullback is really just the offensive linebacker. So I feel like that's kind of the factory that you learn both sides of the ball. You're kind of that mid-skill guy. So, yeah, I think that's where Wisconsin makes its bread and butter, and I'm glad that Jack Stanker is doing his thing right now, and really excited for that fullback position to be back, man. It's a pride and joy of a lot of us watching ball.
Transitioning, talking about the Badger football team, Jeff Grimes comes in. He's saying the right things. It sounds like he's reached out to some former running backs and said the right things to them. Luke Fickell saying the right things. And you know what? Sometimes you got to give a head coach a pass and say, hey, they thought they could try something here that didn't work. He recognized it didn't work, has changed up his recruiting, which is the nice thing with NIL, that you can kind of get back to basics on the fly. But Jeff Grimes comes in. They ran the football at Kansas. They ran the football at Baylor. Yeah, they threw it at BYU when he was there, but that's because they had Zach Wilson, who's your teammate now. So you do have some tie. Maybe you have to ask him about Grimes as an offensive coordinator. But Jeff Grimes is a guy that should get back to basics of run the football to set up the pass and no more shotgun on 4th and 1.
I love it. Back to the fundamentals. But no, I think that coaching staff's doing the right thing. And anytime that you have a plan or philosophy and it doesn't work and you're able to put that ego aside and literally just figure out the best solution possible, like that's a great indicator. I think you have a lot of confidence knowing you got problem solvers on a group, and You're not just going to do it your way because that's the highway and that's all we're worried about. I think that brings, as a player, I love seeing that from coaches is figuring out what's in the room, figuring out how to solve problems, and you're going to do whatever it takes to figure it out.
We won't play the schedule game with you, Alec, but just again, like we'll address the elephant in the room too with the tough schedule Wisconsin's got, third year for Luke Fickell, and yet though Dara Goombawali, who was on Jim, Matt, and Molly too with Matt a couple weeks ago, he phrased it perfectly. Of even though you guys are teammates too, like you guys have been in those situations where you play those tough matchups, you play those tough schools, you play those big teams on the national stage. He always said he uses that as an opportunity to ball out, an opportunity to shine. Where do you stand on where Dare made those comments on?
Well, I mean, dude shined at prime time. He had his opportunity against Nebraska under the lights, scores an overtime touchdown. Like that's kind of how he lives. Bigger the game, the bigger the moment, the bigger exposure. Obviously, you want to be one of those guys that makes big time plays in big time games. And the more you're used to that, I think it's a great opportunity for these guys in this schedule. You're going to get a lot of exposure. You're going to play against the best. It's a measuring stick, and that's what competition's all about, man. If you're cut from that right cloth, you're not afraid of that competition. Those are the games that you live for. Offensive linemen going up against, touted edge rushers. Like those are the moments that really make or break a career. And if you lean into that and embrace it, that's the best way to go about it.
Alec, it is Men's Health Month in June here, and we like to ask some guests if it's pertinent about those sorts of things. Obviously, you wrote a book here, 7 Crucibles, which kind of helps with some mental health side of things and how to overcome adversity. But obviously, you played in the NFL. You currently are. Your physical health probably comes into your mind as well. So even as a younger man who's playing in the NFL, whether it's the mental health side of things or the physical health side of things, what kind of focus do you put on men's health for yourself?
I think it's all connected, right? Your head, your mind, your body, your heart. I think all of it's connected and all of it's aligned. So as you're eating right and nutrition's good, your body's feeling great, I think that uplifts your spirit and it uplifts your mood. So I think you really have to take a holistic approach to it. My wife's like a naturopathic or PA, like functional medicine, all that. So I'm all into the gluten-free, all into the eating healthy. But when it comes to mental health, I think you got to stay on top of it. It's a skill. It's a tool that you can use, how you think about yourself, how you think about others. So being really mindful of that is a huge thing for me. We talk mindset a lot. But, if the mind isn't right, the man never will be. So I think that's a huge one.
Nola, talking about this team too, and I guess this is your second year with the program, seeing the changes at how the offense and how the team has changed a little bit. Whether it's like how fast you guys move, you guys are scoring 90 points here up on the scoreboard, which is pretty sweet to see. But Coach Gard was on Wilde and Tausch earlier today. Before we get into the question, wanted to play a little bit of a soundbite from him.
This style of play wasn't evolved and developed and chosen by our staff because of what we worried about the outside. What the outside said, it was about how we saw the game evolving, how things were changing with the rules, with player development, with maximizing some of the skill sets of guys we had. It contributes to winning basketball. That's really the main goal here.
So yeah, just to give some more context there and to jump into this was Coach Gard talking about why you guys are playing a lot faster, how the coaching staff decided that this was the move that you needed to make. Being a guy who's been in this program first, second year, what was this summer like when you guys transitioned to more of this faster style?
Yeah, a lot of conditioning, a lot of running, getting in shape for this style of basketball. So that part wasn't too fun. But no, I mean, this offense has been awesome to play in. And throughout this summer, we really were just really diving into all the kind of different actions we have throughout the offense. And we knew our personnel in the summer with John Tanji, Xavier, and all the newcomers from the freshmen to the transfers. So we knew this offense was going to treat us really well, if we were able to do it, if we were able to get up and down at the pace that we do. And then obviously we've seen that we have shot makers, 1 through 5, all positions, everyone can shoot the ball. So in this offense, that really does help just kind of space the floor. And yeah, we're as a team, our motto and like what we say in the locker room is like, don't pass up any good shots. No matter what it is in the shot clock, if you got to look, we're shooting it because we know that more likely than not it's going to go in. And then go back, keep repping that out.
We have ESPN just ranked John Tanji as the best transfer in all college basketball this year, and Two-part question. One, he broke some records set by Michael Finley. I do want to know if you know who Michael Finley is. You might remember him from the NBA. But then the other part of it is, like when he got here, this transfer, and you're running fast and you're getting up there. At what point, what's the term here? Game recognizes game, where you're like, oh, this guy can ball. Like, we got something special here. So, two-part question there for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Michael Finley actually did come in and talk to the team. So I kind of got to know him a little better. Before then, I mean, I obviously knew who he was. I played with him on like 2K and stuff on video games. So I knew kind of who he was from that. But first time actually getting to meet him was when he came in and talked to us. And then when it comes to John Tanji, this summer and throughout the fall, I'm not even kidding. I don't really remember many shots that he missed. And like from three, like he was one of the better shooters I've really seen and played with. So kind of throughout the whole fall, I was like, oh my gosh, like let's just keep getting this dude the ball from three, let him shoot it. And then obviously throughout the year, we've seen that he's added to his game. He's been able to get downhill and score from all three levels. So I'd just say throughout these practices, man, he could really shoot it. So
Man, we're seeing a lot of John just wow us on the court. But tell us, pull the curtain back a little bit for us and let us know, who is he, the guy behind the scenes? I know that he feels like this true selfless leader. Even though he's the lead scorer, he's always going to put his team first. Tell us a little bit about that side.
Yeah, I mean, John is really one of the most humble dudes we got on the team. Super down to earth. You wouldn't really think of him as being like this Naismith contention player of the year. Like he just wants what's best for the team. He comes in, he's kind of the old head of the team, so he's drinking his coffee, he's doing all this kind of stuff, he's eating like crazy healthy, like doing all this kind of stuff. But no, like I said, he's one of the more humble dudes I've ever been around, and he just wants what's best for the team and what's best for us. So it's been a blessing to be able to play with him and just see what kind of he brings to the locker room, just a sense of maturity. And then obviously we've seen what he's done on the court.
Nolan, you've elevated your game as well, and obviously that's through the work you put in the offseason, and the offense helps. I mean, it's more than just playing more minutes. Everything's gone up more than just the bump in minutes, just an overall play. You seem like a more confident player. So your offseason, and then also, look, whether it's Tanjay or other players or a coach that's had that influence on you, what's been, whether it's players, coaches, and yourself, like what's been the biggest influence besides just minutes that's been able to up your game? Your three-point percentage, your field goal percentage, your rebound, everything is up. So obviously you've elevated your game more than just playing more minutes.
Yeah, this summer, after kind of playing in this offense my freshman year and learning what it takes to succeed at this level, going home this summer and really fine-tuning those specific elements I needed to be able to perform at a high level at this level, including my shooting. I know I've always been a good shooter. Last season, the numbers may not have reflected that, but I know that I got that in me. Growing up, I was kind of a little guard, so I know I have those guard skills in me to be able to put the ball on the floor and do all that stuff. We had Coach Steemsma come in, former player here, obviously, and he's been a real help to my confidence, to my play style. He's kind of been around me every day in practice, giving me little tips and tricks to succeed. And a lot of my performance and credit goes to him. So yeah, just going home, working on the stuff I know I need to get better at, getting stronger, obviously. And then having the supporting coaching staff I do here gives me all the confidence in the world to go out and compete at a high level.
Nolan Winter joining us here on the Jump Around Digital show here on ESPN Madison. Pablo Iglesias, Jim Rutledge. Nolan, I know you're also a Minnesota guy, and on top of that, too, to talk a little bit about your background coming up, both of your parents are Golden Gophers. Tell us a little bit about this story. Who had to break the news to who that, guys, I'm going to Wisconsin? I'm sure you wanted to continue the legacy if you did have a scholarship there. What was that conversation first like when you broke the news to the parents?
Yeah. So yeah, my dad played basketball with the Gophers. He went to the Final Four in '97 with them. And my mom played volleyball there. So growing up, I was kind of I was going to all the Gopher games. I was a big Gopher fan growing up. And then as the time come when I had to commit, I had calls with both schools. I had visits with both schools, and I really did love each one. And I knew the legacy thing was a big part of it. But at the end of the day, I kind of saw myself benefiting better here as a Badger and seeing my career kind of, I don't know. I'm glad I've made this decision. So obviously Gophers are a great program. They have great tradition, and I have a lot of respect for them. But yeah, I was the one that told my dad first that I wanted to be a Badger, and he was all for it. So was my mom. They said that their parents let them do whatever they did, and they're not going to control what I do with my life. So, no, I broke it to him, and it was kind of tough for me knowing that, maybe the legacy was a big deal to all of us. But I kind of wanted to start my own thing. I kind of wanted to blaze my own path. So I'm glad I'm here, and we've had a lot of success here. So I'm super happy that I'm here doing what we're doing.
We have Barry Alvarez has his show on our air, and he was talking about some of the Fire Fickle chants and how it's unfair to Fickle, to the players, and they're out there putting out a hard product. What does it kind of do to your mentality? How do you block out the noise when you're playing and you're hearing things against your coach, who obviously you believe in, you chose to come here, you see the work that he puts in, you see the work that the whole staff puts in. So how do you separate those two things of like, look, fans are fans, they have the right to do what they want to do, but they also are not in that locker room to see how together you guys are and see how hard you're working and see how hard the staff is working. Like, how do you play both those emotions?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of what you said. Fans are fans. They're right to their opinion is their right. But like you said, they don't see the hours that we're putting in. They don't see the hours that Coach Fick is putting in. And like you said, like, he's our head coach, and we're gonna fight, scrap, and claw for him. And we all have 100% confidence in him. And we're going to show up to work every day and give it our all for him. And yeah.
What about Fickle? And obviously the program was the program when you grew up here. So what about Fickle and Tressel and the entire staff attracted you to Wisconsin in the first place?
I think in the recruiting process, they just did a great job of just telling me that they wanted to keep in-state kids in state and wanted to keep that legacy going. So that was a real big appeal to me. And honestly, they just recruited me the hardest out of any school. So I think it was a really easy decision. Obviously, being an in-state kid, all those factors kind of led into it.
Yeah, Coop, why should this still be a premier place for kids in state? I mean, I know whether it's both sides, if it's the recruiting team going out, or just like even if you wanted to be the voice, why should kids still make sure that hey, if I could play for the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I am going to do everything I can. Why should UW-Madison again be a place for Wisconsin kids?
Yeah, I mean, I've always believed growing up, seeing a bunch of in-state kids dominate here. I've always believed the best players in Wisconsin to come and play at Wisconsin. I think that's always been an obvious choice, being an in-state kid. And where else would you rather be?
No, I think that's a great answer. I think that's the answer a lot of fans have, too. They want this team to succeed. They want this team to be a winning team. Obviously, you guys want that as well. So you have, this is a question here. So you're a young kid, so obviously there's a lot to play for here. But each week, the bowl's out, or not out yet, but the bowl could be out, but you have these games coming up and you have some rivalry games left. So, when you're looking into each game, how does the coaching staff, how do you get yourself up? Because losing is something that is hard to break and it can feel impossible at times. So how do you guys come up with that mentality week after week? Because that speaks a lot to the mental toughness of the team that you guys come out every week ready to play.
Yeah, I can guarantee you there's nothing like, no coaches are bringing us up. We're all coming to practice every day. We're all of a good attitude, and nobody's down. Nobody's quitting on the team. So I think the coaches do a great job of keeping us focused on the process. Coming in every day, trying to get better, and we're on to Washington. We're focusing on Washington. We're trying to figure out what they do, and we're trying to figure out how to stop them. So we're gonna do everything we can to do that. And yeah.
Cooper, from day one, starting out, putting on the pads, everything for Wisconsin, what do you think has been the biggest lesson you've learned about yourself that's brought you to this point?
I would say definitely the knowledge of football. I think everyone kind of, playing high school football thinks they know a good amount about football and, basic concepts and everything. When I got here, man, those first few weeks, I was like, wow, I really don't know a lot about football, or as much as I thought I knew about football. So that was probably the biggest thing I've learned so far from just being here.
Do you have a welcome to college football, welcome to Wisconsin story? I've asked a few pro athletes this too. What's been your welcome to the league? What was Cooper Catalano's welcome to Wisconsin Badgers college football story?
Yeah, I think I've said this a few times, but inside run periods in spring ball when I was still, trying to gain some weight and just, going against Wisconsin offensive linemen, that was definitely wow, this is big boy football.
So a couple questions about the defense. Who's the one guy on the team you would never challenge to a fight? I'm assuming it's a defensive player. Could be an offensive lineman.
Never challenging a fight. There are a few guys, definitely on the defensive line. I probably wouldn't challenge Ben. Probably wouldn't challenge Suggs. Probably wouldn't challenge Mace because I don't know how to wrestle. Yeah.
And who has the best taste in music on the team?
Best taste in music.
It's very relative, but still.
I would say, yeah. I mean, pre-practice, I'm in the secondary room with a lot of the guys, and they throw on some good classic rock hits. So I like classic rock. I like some old school music. So I would say Owen Arnett's got some good taste. Preston Zachman, and definitely Whit. Whit puts some good songs on once in a while. So I would say those three.
And then as a defensive player, because I remember in high school I had playing Michael Bennett, a former Badger, and he just ran right by.
Flex.
I was like, good
flex.
God, no, I was terrible. I didn't even touch him. Like he was so fast. He was a great Badger running back, track athlete. So when you're covering in the Badgers here and you're going against your offense, who's the one guy on your team? Like, God, I hope I don't have to try to catch this guy because he's going to fly right by me.
Oh yeah. All the backers, we all hope we're never matched up on Tretch, man. Like, if we're ever in a middle runner technique or any kind of carry, we're like, wow, like, I hope Tretch is in that 3 right here, wherever he's at. So I would definitely say Tretch.
And then the last thing I have for you is that you're playing as a true freshman. There's other guys on the team that are younger and could get opportunities to play as the season plays out. What advice do you give to, or would you give to any other true freshman players who haven't played a lot, who might get playing time, about at Camp Randall and playing on the field when the games matter on national TV? Like, how did you cope with that, and what would you tell younger players making their debut at some point this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like I said before, had a great room, had great coaches, but I think really just coming in every day and focusing on that day. It's easy, to get caught up in other stuff, playing time, how many reps you're getting. And, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I got caught up in that stuff early on, but I think I had some, like I've said before, some great leaders in the room that kind of kept me on track and just focused on the day-to-day stuff. And I think just coming in every day and just learning from what you did yesterday and trying to apply that to the day and just get better from that. So I think just having your process straight and being able to come in every day and get better is the biggest key.
Matt, you've been around. You've seen Barry. You've seen Brett. You've seen, obviously, Luke now. There's been some coaches in between. And I think fans sometimes forget, in 2008, the Badgers were 7-6. Barry had some dips in there. And so it's not always, sunshine and rainbows at Wisconsin. And the difference was what Barry had no expectations coming in. And then once he turned it around, he was kind of set. And then Brett hit the ground running. There's a case to be made that Fickell can turn this thing around, and that a down little turn here for Badger football for a couple of years can be not written off, because I think Coach Fickell is invested in making the team better, but impossible schedule and injuries at the worst position to have an injury at when you run this type of offense. So I guess kind of soothe Badger fans as someone who's seen the eras that not every year was 10 wins and a bowl win, that Badger football can bounce back quickly.
That's where it helps to be old, as I am, being around this for 37 years. And I would say with Barry, I think people, those who have a certain age know this, but we're talking a generation ago now. When Barry started here, it was pretty much ground zero. He had to get the fan base to care, and not just outside of Madison, within Madison. And those guys worked so hard trying to get fans to re-engage with the program and boosters and all of that. But what he put in, words can't adequately describe it. And then when they won their Rose Bowls in the 90s, after they won their back-to-back, after the 98 and 99 seasons, they went through a 5-year stretch where in the Big Ten, they were 19-21 in Big Ten play. The last 5 years here, 3 with Paul and Paul/Jim, and then with Luke, they're 21-21. So that your point is a valid one, Jim. I mean, it isn't always be at or near the top. It isn't always playing in the Big Ten championship game. The challenge now, the more recent history, is that between 2010 and 2019, this team was really good. And in today's world of the college football playoff, they would have been a semi-regular. But that's a snapshot in the 130-some years of Wisconsin football. Yes, even Barry, a rightfully so, first ballot College Football Hall of Famer, winningest coach ever here. There were years that were bumpy. It he always said it's hard to win, and those weren't just words. I mean, and I think here you always face an uphill battle against the blue bloods of the Big Ten, but they've gone through this before. Fickle has gone through 2 years as a coach that he's never gone through before, ever, as an assistant, as a head coach. So you know that this kind of stuff eats him alive, and his competitive nature, every waking moment that he has, I doubt that he sleeps a lot even in May, every waking moment. So how do we fix this? How do we make the step to get back to being in bowl games and then eventually get back in today's world being in contention for the playoff? That's seems like a little reach right now, but this is a big year for these guys where they can prove a point to people that, hey, this is, we're still Wisconsin, and you're still capable of playing with the biggest of the big boys out there.
Pablo, before you ask your question, I would just like to point out to what Matt was saying about how the Badger football program needed to build itself. I grew up in the Milwaukee area in Cedarburg. I didn't know that the Badgers had a football team until I was 13 years old in 1993 when they went to the Rose Bowl. That's when I learned. I'm like, wait, what is going on? There's college football in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, that's how. I mean, obviously we grew up in a different part of the state, but it was so out of sight, out of mind. But then that season was like the biggest thing socially and around your friends and my parents' friends, and they gathered and watched the Rose Bowl and did the whole thing. It was insane how on the radar Badger football was before Barry finally got them there, and he had to go 10-1 and get to the Rose Bowl to really do it.
Yeah, it's actually funny too. When I was at dinner with my parents last week, so Matt, actually, I did have Tornado Room on the list for my birthday last week. I ended up going somewhere else. I didn't mention it to Evan Cohen. I knew he was going to rip me for it, so maybe we'll mention that at a different point. But yeah, no, same thing with Jim's point. It was I knew, actually, fun fact, like the first live story that I did here when I came to Madison as a reporter was Barry Alvarez retiring and getting to learn about his legacy in real time. But explaining to my parents the quote of "better get your tickets now before it's before it's too late," or I'm paraphrasing it, but we know. Well, ironically, I don't know the line off the top of my head, but we know the sentiment that he put out there. We know all that, so it's really cool to think about it. Just sharing that story and like, hey, this is the guy who made Wisconsin football what it is. But yeah, Matt, transitioning into that and talking about the guy who is the coach. You mentioned Luke Fickell a little bit. How have you seen him grow over these 2 years as the head coach? Getting to know him over these years.
Well, yeah. First off, he's a great dude. And I hope that more people in the community throughout the state can get to know him a little bit, and over time when he gets out a little bit more, because he is everything. When they hired him, I called my colleagues back in Ohio, a guy at Ohio State, their play-by-play announcer is a good friend of mine, Paul Keels, and the voice of the Cincinnati Bearcats, Dan Horde, who I don't know really well, but I said, okay, what are we getting here? And they painted a picture of him that was really good. It's like, you're going to really like working with them, and so on and so forth. And he has been all of that and then some. I think with anybody, though, who comes from the outside, and maybe this is the case at most universities, but I certainly know it's the case here, this is a little different. And I'm not saying that is a good thing or a bad thing, but it's different. And you're just kind of getting a lay of the land, and what are the battles worth fighting, and what are the battles that you maybe just you move on to next. And my guess is he's now 2 years in, has a much better feel for that, as opposed to when he first stepped on campus in late November, early December of 2022. So and I just think over the course of time, you develop relationships with coaches in the state of Wisconsin. Obviously, their footprint, as he's mentioned many times, there's a reach for the Wisconsin brand that goes out a little bit further than what he first thought. But at the same time, if you can get those guys a little closer to home, the Wisconsin guy who may only be a 3-star or a 2-star, but is living the dream for playing here by playing here, that can make a difference as well. So I think he's, I think he owns some mistakes maybe that were made, schematically with the offense and all of that. So yes, I think he was already a pretty mature coach when he got here, but I think it's just a matter of getting acclimated to what can work at a place like the University of Wisconsin. I think we have seen some growth with him, and it has to, because of the schedule that they played last year, and one that this year is arguably even more difficult with some of these blue blood games being on the road, Michigan and Oregon to name two. And we'll see if Indiana puts together another year like it did last year. So the schedule, as we all know, didn't even say Alabama. The schedule, as we all know, is very challenging, daunting, however you want to describe it. But he wants guys who want to jump at the opportunity to play against a schedule like that.